And tonight on the Daily Wrap, yet another Republican has entered the race for the White House, bringing the GOP total to a lucky 13. The president now calling for major policy changes in the way we handle hostage situations here in the U.S. We'll tell you all about it, plus much more. This is the Daily Wrap, live from New York City. And welcome to the show, everybody. I'm Joe Concha, along with my co-host, Rick Unger of Sirius XM and Forbes. How are you?
I'm rather well today, as a matter of fact. How are you?
I'm doing outstanding. The green tie is new. I've never seen that.
This one, yeah, well, you know, I like to change it up for TV.
Wow. You're like Madonna, always rebranding yourself.
Absolutely. I get that a lot. I'm like Madonna.
You're like Madonna. One word.
You said that to me once, didn't you, Carl?
No.
Anyway, joining us tonight, the aforementioned Carl Higby is a former Navy SEAL and congressional candidate, and maybe a future candidate. Perhaps we'll dive into that for a little bit. And finally, assistant online editor for Commentary Magazine, Noah Rothman, in his usual position on Wednesdays. He is back. Okay, welcome everybody. Let's get right to the Daily Download. And we're about to hear from Louisiana Governor Bobby Jindal. He just got off the stage not too long ago announcing his intention to run for president. Folks, do we have the soundbite of Mr. Jindal?
My name is Bobby Jindal. I am governor of the great state of Louisiana, and I am running for president of the greatest country in the world, the United States of America.
He actually did that in the beginning of the speech. They usually wait 40 minutes in before they do it, but he went right to the big line. So for you keeping score at home, Governor Jindal is the 13th Republican, as we mentioned, and 5th governor to announce his candidacy. Although he won the Louisiana governor's office by big margins in 2007 and 11, his popularity has plummeted in the state, with his approval rating now at, get this, a disturbing 31%. And if you recall, he famously said this at the 2013 RNC retreat.
We've got to stop being the stupid party. And I'm serious, it's time for a new Republican Party that talks like adults. It's time for us to articulate our plans and our visions for America in real terms. It's no secret we had a number of Republicans that damaged the brand this year with offensive and bizarre comments. I'm here to say we've had enough of that.
And that comment came under a lot of fire. Rick, I guess the most basic question is, if you're only at 31% in your state, only 1 in 3 people support you, how can you possibly think of even running for the presidency?
It's actually worse than that. He is less popular in the state of Louisiana than Barack Obama is. The president has a higher score than Bobby Jindal.
Slightly a red state.
Yeah, slightly a red state. So, you know, there's 2 words that come to mind, and I just don't know any other way to sum it up but to say, who cares?
Who cares?
Who cares? Nobody cares about Bobby Jindal. Nobody's going to care. He's got no surprises up his sleeve to offer us. He's another conservative in a certain track that we have many already filling the lane.
Noah wants to respond. I see him almost bursting at the seams. Let me ask you this question and then jump into your point. Is Bobby Jindal really running for vice president?
You know, that's such a hard thing to accuse somebody of running for the presidency of ever doing. I don't think you would ever engage in this kind of a process with that in mind, unless you're, say, running against Hillary Clinton. In which case, well, no, I don't know. I mean, that's kind of a hard thing to suggest, especially since the contention is that because he's really unpopular, he's not going to go anywhere. He's a 2-term governor. They never like you to run for the White House from your home state. They always turn on you in your second term. So governors tend to be kind of unpopular in their second terms. You can point to a lot of other governors who have run for this office who are in their second term, not out of the office, but in their second term, who are pretty unpopular. And
not John Kasich.
There's definitely a niche that Bobby Jindal can fill.
Do you think it might have anything to do with the fact that his state budget is an absolute unmitigated disaster?
I think that frustrates a lot of liberals, but I don't necessarily.
No, I think it frustrates a lot of people in Louisiana. It might explain his low ratings.
There was also to do with a religious liberties law that frustrated a lot of conservatives. So he's definitely unpopular in his state, as is, for example, Chris Christie, who's also in the 30s in New Jersey. He used to be substantially popular, but he is also running for the presidency. This is what campaigns are for. Campaigns develop.
Carl, how much is enough? How many candidates can the
here's the
GOP take on this boat?
At this point, I think people are just throwing their hat in the ring because they're like, sure, why not? You know, it's going to help me. I can put it on my resume that I ran for president of the United States.
This is about a LinkedIn page, you think?
I think a large part of some of these people's decision to get in is that.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, why not? You do it. Now you've solidified yourself $100,000 speaking gigs all over the nation, win or lose.
You know, it's kind of a shame. You've got so many of these people who know that they can't win.
Right.
Running. There are some potential GOP candidates out there who could be real players, and they're not going to get near it. People like Governor Engel out of Maryland, who is really a clever guy.
He has some health
and a
problems right now,
successful
though.
guy. Yeah, but he's going to be okay. I actually know him, and I know he could do this. He would be a great candidate, and yet it's never going to happen because he's too far down the list.
Yeah.
What I want to know is, how does this NOAA work itself out? In other words, when you have 13, it's probably going to get to 16, 17 candidates. Right. What's going to be the process where you start to eliminate some of these folks? Do we have to wait for the primaries and handle 17 candidates up until then?
Well, yeah, no shortage of ink has been spilt on how to winnow down this field, and it's going to be difficult for me to summarize all of them right now, and
Sure.
I probably won't be able to do that, so I won't. But what you should probably rely on is the polls. And a lot of people have a real frustration with that, but this is a meritocracy. It's not that this isn't a lottery. You don't get to pick out of a hat and run for the presidency. You do have a certain amount of name recognition that you have to generate, and in order to run for this of a position, that's what you have to do in order to select
But
who's
outside
going
of
to be
Duck
in the
Dynasty, Bobby Jindal doesn't have that.
He
has been on the show, though.
He's been on the show.
Yeah, there you go.
Right, but we're in the middle of the campaign, right? So, for example, the GOP right now is struggling with how to deal with the Donald Trump problem. They don't want Donald Trump to get on that debate stage. And they're devising all these weird ways in order to single him out to make sure he's not on the stage. The only way to do is to get him talking. Make sure that he talks himself out of this race.
He seems to be talking himself into this race, so that's the amazing thing. If you at least look at the New Hampshire poll where he's running second right now. Anyway, we do have to move on. Let's switch now to a possible VP pick. Speaking of VP picks, today on the Hill, South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley got some positive press, as she should, from various political consultants, regarding her handling of the Confederate flag issue following the Charleston church massacre last week. Newsmax contributor Ford O'Connell suggests that she might be a good VP pick. So let me ask you, Mr. Unger, does Nikki add or subtract from a Republican presidential ticket?
Here's the problem. Under some circumstances, you could see where she might be a good addition. The difficulty is this. For starters, she too has a very serious budget problem down there that's not going to play well. Number two, she actually supported a gas tax in her state, which is not the sort of thing that's going to please the Republican base. And number three, fairly or unfairly, I have no idea. There is a persistent rumor dating back a number of years about her having an affair. She's married. It keeps coming back. Again, I can't tell you if it's fair or unfair, but it's going to dog her.
Hopefully, Carl, that doesn't hurt Hillary Clinton in any capacity.
Well,
Hillary's never been charged with that.
no, I'm saying her spouse, her spouse.
But
you know what I mean? The
Yeah,
fair
and,
stuff
and she
people-
stood by him. You know what some would say blindly. But anyway, I mean, the Clintons' marriage was never real to begin with. Let's be honest. But the real issue here is, I think there's a large majority of people that are a little annoyed about taking down the Confederate flag, because I don't think, a very small number of very outspoken people made this huge stink about it. Let's be honest. If I said I want to take down the gay pride flag, and I was so offended by it, would they take it down? No. A very small minority made that a bigger issue what it was. And Nikki Haley, she buckled to the pressure.
I'm not sure the entire black population of the United States qualifies as a small majority.
It was not the entire black population of the United
Pretty
States.
much.
It wasn't seen as racist 2
No.
weeks ago, though, by a lot. Like, you didn't see large
It was
protests.
not true.
heritage. 2
That's-
weeks ago, it was heritage.
That's not true. I got to
was
tell you something.
historical and heritage.
Nobody was screaming about it 2 weeks ago, although it came up a number of years ago when they took it off
they're
of the South
less
Carolina
than, yeah, they're
Capitol
less than
and put it on
13%
thing.
of the population. So
Well, okay.
Anyway,
Yeah.
we have to move on quickly once again because we're still talking presidencies right now.
Sorry.
Sorry, Noah.
I wanna
According
do
to
it, Noah.
Politico, New Jersey Governor Chris Christie set to announce his presidency as early as next week. That makes 14. Similar to Jindal, as Rick just mentioned, Christie is getting hammered in the polls in my home state of New Jersey. Only 30% of registered voters surveyed in a poll conducted by Fairleigh Dickinson said they approved of the job that he is doing, while 55% gave him a thumbs down. All right, Noah, quickly, only have 20 seconds. Does it matter how a candidate is polling at home to predict future success? Like Mitt Romney, for instance, wouldn't have won his home state, and yet he got the nomination.
No, it doesn't matter whatsoever. And in fact, if he's going to get any traction, it's going to be with the party elites, with the party brass and the fundraisers, and they actually have a pretty favorable impression of him.
Okay. Well, President Obama is calling for policy changes in the way the U.S. handles hostages. What are those changes? We'll tell you after the break.